Hello everyone, this is Chidanand from Crux Infotech NG. Welcome to this tutorial on Ansible setup. What I intend to demonstrate in this tutorial is how anyone who's interested in learning Ansible can quickly set up an Ansible configuration using a very beautiful tool called Vagrant. Anybody who knows Ansible or is learning Ansible would possibly know that Ansible needs, or rather, Ansible is usually configured and installed on a Linux machine. So what I intend to demonstrate in this tutorial is on my Windows machine, I'm going to install a tool called Vagrant. Using Vagrant in a configuration which is declarative, I'm going to spin up two virtual machines. Both of them are very similar in terms of the capabilities and the operating system or the boxes that they're going to pull down and run. After these two boxes come up, I'm going to log into this particular one of the VMs, which I'm going to identify like Ansible server and install Ansible. Later, I'll also demonstrate how to configure Ansible so that using command line ad hoc command or a playbook, I can potentially target this particular virtual machine and run a couple of tasks or configurations using Ansible. All the documentation and the steps that I'm going to be following in this tutorial is already shared in one of my GitHub public repositories. So install Vagrant, and Vagrant needs some sort of an hypervisor, any type of an hypervisor. What I've installed is Oracle VirtualBox, but you can potentially download and install any other hypervisor that you would need. So if at all I take a look at what all things that I have installed on my Windows machine, I have first of all have a specific version of Vagrant, 2.3.4 version of Vagrant. I also have VirtualBox. Oracle VirtualBox 6.1.40 version. These already installed, pretty straightforward installation. So after this, what I would want to do is I have put up a bunch of configurations in a specific file called Vagrant file. Vagrant file is nothing but a simple text file that can be put out anywhere on your system. So I put up a specific configurations in a Vagrant file. So let me show you where I have this configuration. This is a folder and I have a file called Vagrant file. I'll show you what exactly I have in my Vagrant file. But before that, let me start spinning up my virtual machines. So I open a command prompt in this particular folder and run a very simple command called Vagrant up. Now Vagrant up will pick up whatever configurations in that are specified in a specific file called Vagrant file, V capital. Okay, so this will take some time to run. I'll let it run. I'll kind of minimize it and let me show you what is that I have in this Vagrant file. What kind of a configurations I have put in this Vagrant file. All right. So if at all you look at this Vagrant file, oops, I don't need this. All right. So if you look at this Vagrant file configure, there are some two configurations that I need. Config.vm.box check for updates equal to false, don't check for any updates. And I have two configurations or two blocks of configuration. I have the first virtual machine, which is called a controller. And this virtual machine is going to be powered by an image called this specific image. All right, so you can take a look at this documentation to find out what all images are available for Vagrant. So Vagrant is nothing but a kind of a, they have got their own configurations where not a fully blown virtual machine with such a huge size, but a kind of scaled down versions and better versions, in my personal opinion, of all of them compacted and present to you for people to kind of download and run on their local machines. So there's a very popular Ubuntu 20.04 flavor that I've used, and this machine is called controller.cratsinfotech.com. I also defined an IP address for this particular machine. Also, There is a lot of configuration. I've just picked two configuration. What is the memory? How much memory does this particular VM need? And how much CPU? So this is the configuration for one VM. So one of the VM is called controller, and this one other VM called Ubuntu One. All right. So if everything goes well, my Vagrant should spin up two virtual machines. It took a while. First time when you run it, it's going to take some time. And it did a bunch of things. If there's any error in the Vagrant file, the error messages are kind of thrown out here. But looks like everything looks good. And if at all I say Vagrant status, all right, now you'll find two machines running. One of them is called controller, other one is just Ubuntu One. So these are the same configurations that I've specified here, Ubuntu One and controller. Now let me try to get into controller. The controller is a machine which I'm going to use for controlling all other machines. For now, I have only one, but assuming that there are a bunch of other machines also, what I want to do in this controller is get into it, install Ansible. Ansible is an agentless configuration management system. It doesn't need any agents to be running on the end machines. So all that you got to do is install Ansible on the server and you're all set. So Vagrant SSH controller. Okay, so this will actually take me into those virtual machines or the first virtual machine. All right. So the first command sudo apt get update is typical command that anybody would want to run. And what other commands are required in order to all the commands that I'm going to follow is already put out here. Okay. So if at all I did this command and if at all I need to install Ansible, there's different ways of installing Ansible, but I would like to use something called as apt-get or apt, which is nothing but a package manager. So my apt-get update ran well. So sudo apt add a repository, which is called ppa and all that part, ppa colon Ansible. So this repository has got definitions of our Ansible. So once that is done, the standard sudo apt-get update, and then one command to install Ansible. Sudo apt-get install Ansible. All right. Now, even to install Ansible, there are a bunch of different ways. You can download Ansible, or Ansible is based upon Python. You can also install Python and do a pip install Ansible. But what I prefer to do is use the apt package or the package manager for installing Ansible. Now this may take some time, so let me pause the video and come back once the installation is complete. All right, it took a while. Finally, Ansible was installed. All right, now if at all I need to check Ansible double version. All right, it will tell you the configurations as to from which folder which files are getting picked. So there's a main important configuration file called ansible.cfg that is present in etc ansible folder. Okay, and it also tells you a couple of other things as to what libraries of Python and what Jinja version and everything else that is being used by Ansible. All right, so now Ansible got installed successfully. Okay, now let's just verify if everything is okay or not by running a bunch of localhost commands. All right, so Ansible localhost module ping. All right, and if at all I say -vvv, the more number of v's, that means the more verbose. So I'm trying to, ping myself just to check if everything is okay. All right, now you see ping pong. That means I'm just trying to, you know, check if Ansible is working okay or not. Also, let me just try to run one other command. Ansible localhost. I'm firing a command against myself, and myself meaning I'm the localhost here. So argument host name. What is the name of my host? All right. So you have Ansible up and running here, and Ansible seems to be running okay. Now let's double check that by trying to control another machine. Before we do that, let me just check sudo apt get install net-tools. I just want to show you what is the IP address. Though it's a local IP address, each of the machine that we've spun up has got a very, very specific IP address. And this IP address is already was already configured in the Vagrant file configuration that we use to spin up our VM. So 192.168.10.10, that's what this guy should show up. IP config, sorry, if config. All right, if config, if I look at the Ethernet 192.168.10.10. So one machine has come up, which is 10.10. I will double check if the other machine has also come up and what is the IP address of the other machine. So in order to do that, let me go to my C virtual machine Vagrant VMs Ansible setup and open another prompt here. Vagrant is the command status. Will show me the status of all the running VMs. There are two VMs. One is what we installed our Ansible, which is controller. Now let me try to get into Ubuntu 1. Vagrant SSH Ubuntu 1. Okay, so the left side is where I'm inside the controller. The right side, I'm trying to get into wrong spelling, Ubuntu 1. All right, so sudo apt get update. Typically, this is what you're supposed to do for any new virtual machine or a new operating system that you have installed. We're using Ubuntu, so apt. If you're using any other flavors, accordingly, there would be some sort of a package manager command, be it yum or any other stuff. So let me also install sudo apt get install net-tools. This is just to get our IP address or if config file running. If config. All right. So 10.10 is my controller. 10.20 is Ubuntu 1. Okay. So if at all I say host name, it's Ubuntu 1. So let me go ahead and configure our controller so that I'll be able to fire commands against this Ubuntu 1. So let me go to my Ubuntu machine, which is controller on which I've installed Ansible, and let me go to etc Ansible folder. All right. So many of these files need super user permissions. Okay. So this is root. So let me become a root. All right. So now let me take a look at ansible.cfg file first. Okay, so there's no content out here in ansible.cfg. It also tells you what command can be used in order to write or rather auto-generate an ansible.cfg file. Okay, so what I'll try to do is I'll remove this ansible.cfg and auto-generate this ansible.cfg with all the default configurations. The reason why I'm trying to do this is I just want to show you all the configurations that is present in this Ansible.c. The default, most of them, or rather all of them would be in a disabled state. But what are the defaults? You will find a bunch of these configurations. Now, going back to my slide, what I wanted to do is I wanted to control one VM from the other VM, right? From this controller, I want to control this particular VM. But the standard way of controlling or standard way of getting permissions is by using SSH keys. I'm not going to demonstrate that. What I intend to do is when we do Vagrant, automatically Vagrant VMs have got some sort of a default username and password. I'll shortly show you what is the default username and password. So first of all, we would want to configure Ansible such that the key checking there's a strict key checking that happens. So anytime Ansible server tries to contact any other server for controlling it, it's always the keys. That is the default key checking that happens. So let's try to disable this setting first. All right. So out here, if you search for key underscore checking, okay, host key checking, all this is whatever steps that I'm following is already highlighted here in this GitHub repository. Okay, so to disable strict key checking, modify the following flag. Host key checking, that has to be made false. Okay, so host key checking as of now is actually disabled. So let me try to make it false. FALSE. Okay, so this is one of the configuration that we got to do. Another one, which is most important one, is I have to define what are these servers, what is the IP address of these servers, what are the configurations of the servers in a file called host, HOSTS. Okay, so there's a bunch of default configurations, all of them are commented out, which are given here, but I have to define what servers, what aliases, and what configurations should I potentially use. Okay, so now here I've laid out what is the configurations and what is the alias that I'm going to use in order to control my other server, which is called Ubuntu One. Okay, so append the following in the end of this file called host Ubuntu One within these square braces, IP address of the server. There can be a bunch of IP addresses in case you want to group a bunch of servers, but in our case, it's only one. You can put any alias that you want here. I just put it Ubuntu 1 because that's the name of the other server. So Ubuntu 1 IP address of that particular server. And then what are the variables? Again, there are a bunch of different ways in which you can define the same things. This is what I prefer to do. For Ubuntu 1, what are the variables? Ansible connection equal to SSH. You're going to use SSH in order to get to the other machine. What is the user? The default user for all the Vagrant machines is called Vagrant. Okay, and what is the password? Vagrant. So these four configuration will have to be copied and put at the end of our host file. So insert, right click, paste. Ubuntu 1, 192, 168, Ubuntu 1 variables, username, password, and what type of a connection. So let me try to save this configuration. Let me just check if this is okay. Looks good. Okay, sometimes copy and paste and variation gets actually nasty. So yes, Ubuntu one variables. All right, now let me get out of super user permissions. I do not want super user permission. Okay, so my configurations is all done. I can fire any command against the server Ubuntu one using its alias called Ubuntu one. Now let me try my first command against Ubuntu one and check if all my settings works. Okay, all right, let me try my first command. Ansible Ubuntu 1. Ubuntu 1 is nothing but an alias. -m module ping. And let me just try with these verbose so that at least we get to see what is happening in the background. And if there's any error, you'll notice that. Okay, Ansible Ubuntu 1 module ping. All right. So now from this VM, a ping has gone to this particular Ubuntu one, and we got a response called POM, which is nothing but okay, everything seems to be working as expected. All right. Now let me try our next command, host name. Let me try to get the host name of that particular server. If you see here, the host name of my server is called controller. And if I go to this machine and type the host name, it's Ubuntu 1. So from here, he has pinged the other machine, or rather, he has fired a command to the other machine over SSH by using the username and password of this machine, and he has got back the response. Okay, so now let me also try a bunch of other commands. Okay, date. The date command will get fired against that particular server. Okay, and if at all you want any other command that you're aware of, Who am I? Inside that particular server, what is the user that I am? Okay, if at all you say who am I, in this case, both the servers, the default user is nothing but Vagrant. Okay, so my settings, everything looks pretty decent. Okay, pretty good. So let me file a bunch of other commands also. Okay, so let me show you how to maybe copy a file from one server to other server. This is the smallest thing that can be so very easily done by Ansible. Okay, so for that, let me create a file out here. Okay, echo hello from YouTube users. Okay, some content, hello dot text. Oops, oops, not in the Ansible folder. Okay, let me go back to the home folder and then let me try that. All right. So if at all you say ls, there's a hello dot file here on my controller machine. So here, okay, I hope you know Ubuntu 1. This is Ubuntu 1. This is control. It's pretty evident as to which machines I'm on. So out here, pwd vagrant. Okay, the vagrant is the home folder. Nothing is present here. So here I have this file called hello.txt. Okay, so now let me try my next command to copy this file from one server or the Ansible server to the other machine. Oops. Ansible Ubuntu 1 module copy and a bunch of stuff after that. Ansible Ubuntu 1 module copy. What is the argument to the module or the copy module? Source equal to hello.txt. This is the home folder. Hello.txt. Destination equal to the home folder. Okay. And if you want, let's type this -vv just for more verbose, just to find out if something is going bad. All right. Now, if you see here, anything that is not read is good. Okay. So the file actually got copied. Right now, if at all you see ls, the file got copied here. Okay, and I can even check if everything is the file present there right from this machine only by firing a command called stat command. Okay, statistics. Ansible Ubuntu 1 on that particular server, just check whether this particular file in the path is present or not. Okay, using the module called stat module. Okay, as simple as that. Once the configuration is set, you can fire any sort of it. Let me possibly show you one last command before I wind up. Ansible Ubuntu 1. Okay, let me try to create a group. Okay, on Ubuntu 1, Ansible Ubuntu 1, create a group. Okay, so if at all I see more slash etc um, users, what is it called? etc users is it? What is the name of the file? Okay, let's worry about that a little later. First, let me try to create a group. Ansible Ubuntu 1 become a root because some of them need privileged access. Module group. What is the argument of the group? Name equal to Accenture. Create a group called Accenture. State equal to present. All right. So if at all I need to go to etc, what's the name of the file? etc users, is it? etc group. All right, you see here the last item will have Accenture, meaning this command was successful for creating a group. Now let me also create a user. Okay, the commands are so simple. Now this is commands. If you know how to write playbooks, it's much more simpler. All that matters is the configuration. Ansible Ubuntu 1 module become a super user, module user, arguments to user, name equal to Anand, group is equal to Accenture, create home is equal to yes. So create a user called Anand, put him in the group called Accenture, which we previously created, and create home. Create is home folder. Okay, so let me just check that. CD uh, PWD home vagrant. If at all you come out of home vagrant, you see there's another folder called Anand created. So in short, the configuration is the most toughest part. Once you configure two servers or a couple of servers to be controlled by Ansible, you can fire any number of ad hoc commands. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and as usual, all the steps and the commands that I used is already shared in one of my GitHub repositories. And in case you run into any issues, kindly leave me a message and I'll try to address it as soon as I can. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. Have a great day.